your host, Mimosa,
and co-host Kareem.
Welcome to Sometimes We're Boujee and Sometimes We Hood, to healing, navigating grief. It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance. Welcome in, everybody, and welcome to Sometimes We Boujee, Sometimes We Hood. I'm your host, Auntie Mimosa.
Yeah, it's his cousin Kareem. What's going on?
And welcome in. Whew, honey, I'm telling you, today, my intro is a little off, but you know what? I'm tired. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry. Auntie Mimosa has been running all day long, all weekend. So let's get this thing going. Welcome to Sometimes We Boujee, Sometimes We Hood. Whether you're in the depths of grief, slowly learning to live with loss, or supporting someone on their journey, this space is for you. Grief is deeply personal. There's no timeline, no rule book, no right way to navigate it, but through shared experiences, honest conversation, and moments of reflection, we can find comfort, understanding, and hope. In today's episode, we talk about the silent, often invisible weight of loss and the strength to carry it. We're diving into a conversation that's raw, real, and rarely talked about. So, geez, my brain just went left, y'all. It just went left. Today, we're diving into grief many of us carry silently, which is rejection. And whether it's not getting chosen by someone we love, losing an opportunity, or simply just being told we're not enough. Rejection can feel like mourning a version of ourselves that someone else discarded. Rejection doesn't just sling, it doesn't just sting. It doesn't sling, it just doesn't sting. It lingers. So it can feel like mourning the version of you someone didn't choose to love, hire, or see. So grab your tea, because this one is absolutely honest. Actually, cousin Kareem knows this topic. So rejection is a form of grief. Some people don't know that or realize that, or they don't think it is, and we don't always recognize it that way. But just think about it. Like, there is a real loss of identity, of safety, of hope, and the pain activates the same areas in the brain as physical pain, right?
Yeah.
So, cousin Kareem, what are your thoughts on this? Like, you chose this topic, so tell me.
What I was just talking about the big D. I mean, that's the one that the biggest rejection of fear rejection is the big D.
Divorce?
People going through divorce. Yeah. Okay. It's like you start off, you find somebody who you share the similarities with, right? Then you start dating everything, and then you start talking about future and this and that, and then next thing you know, the question gets popped, generally by the male. So the male is picking the female. But in some terms, some women are like, yo, I got that clock thing coming, so I need to be married by a certain time frame. So like for me, I live in an Asian culture. Right. So Japanese women, if they don't get married before they're 40, their parents discard them. It's a cast off, like, oh, you weren't good enough to get chosen before you were 40. And it's like it led to two of my boys getting married to older women. It's because they wanted to get married and have a kid before they were 40. And like these women were like aggressive about it. And now they got their basic marriages where they don't have sex with their wives. They
Mhm.
just the wives kind of discard them unless they need something physically done or they need paperwork signed. And
Mhm.
it's like, imagine that you're living in a relationship where you feel disregarded, like you served a purpose.
Mhm.
That was it. And
Mhm.
now you're just discarded. Take care of the kid. And us, yeah, don't even think about us as a couple. We're just in a situationship.
Mm.
That's a deep statement. And it happens the other way around too.
Okay.
But you look at the situation,
Mhm.
you know it's a bad situation, but you don't want to go the ultimate direction,
Right.
divorce. So then you
Mhm.
sit back and instead of talking about it to a conclusion of why are we at this state,
Right.
just
Right.
you know the answer because it was already told to you. I'm
Mm.
not talking about the situation I just said about doing arranged marriages. I'm just talking
Mhm.
about anything.
Right.
When you're in a bad relationship and you know the answer should be divorce, but
Mm.
maybe one of you came from a situation of divorce, or your parents divorced, so you're trying every opportunity not to go that route. So
Right.
when doing that, you forego having conversations that could try to rectify because you already know that other person has already checked out.
Right. 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 So, and that's complicated because most people, they don't think that grief comes with divorce, right?
Yeah.
And how how it affects and shows up in life. So, when you're talking about grief and divorce, yes, it is rejection, it's separation, it is a loss. You go through the stages of grief, denial, right? Possibly bargaining, oh, if I, did this, or if I do this, I can get the person back. But the question, not question, I want to say, like, that rejection, right? It hits deep because
It hits on your
you're
self-worth.
right, right. So divorce, it does. It hits deep, and it questions your identity. It questions your self-worth. It questions your entire being, right? So, like, I want to say, like, with the with that, some rejections are situational, and that would be like a situational rejection, like getting passed up for a job, right?
Yeah.
But and some of it hits deeper, like I said, when your very identity is rejected, your body, your culture, your dreams, your love, right? So, that's something we have to hold space for. And when we talked about in our last episode, we talked about grief and addiction and like the three types of grief. So with that, that would be a part of the disenfranchised grief when it comes to grief and divorce, right? That's part of disenfranchised grief because it's a grief that some would just dis disassociate with. It's grief that others would not even believe that you're grieving. You know what I'm saying? They don't even feel like it's worth grieving, right? So, and rejection doesn't just say no, right?
Yeah.
It whispers all kind of things. You're not enough. You're too much. This always happens to you, especially if it's a repeat
Yeah.
of
Too repetitive, and you start trying to have to kick yourself out of it. Like, wait a minute, this is happening over and over again. You know, you look inside, and for people who are reflective of themselves, they're like, wait a minute, is it me or is it them?
Right.
But then we get into patterns of things.
Right.
And that's when you got to self-check yourself and realize and accept, hey, you know what? It might not be me. It just might be this person. Am I going to keep letting this happen? Am I going to keep, But then again, that is partially you too, because people tend to be repetitive. They tend to get in a certain vibe of things,
Right.
It has to take something drastic to change their motion, their forwardness, their direction in life, so that they don't have to continue and still pick these type of people. It's like, you got those friends who date the same people.
Yeah.
And they go through the same problem. You know the outcome already. And you're looking at them like, how long is it going to take this time before we get to this point where you recognize that you're dating the same person? But we get you watching people, you get to even watching myself and realizing I had to go a different way. You gotta acknowledge your role in this movement. It's not just it's just it's other person or
right.
You gotta let it time. You gotta set a time and let it out. Then breathe. You gotta say out loud that I feel unwanted, but I'm not unworthy. And then you gotta move on. You gotta put a limit on it.
Right.
That's the thing. You gotta put a limit on it. It's a different form of grieving at this point. Like we were talking about through this whole series, is that grieving has there's no time limit, but when it comes to rejection,
right,
I think that you have to put a time limit, or you're gonna wallow in it, and then next thing you know, like time just goes by. You never addressed it with yourself.
I would agree to that. I would agree to say that when it comes to rejection and grieving, right? So we all know that with rejection, like you said, you start hearing the untruths about yourself, right? You start hearing the whispers. You're not enough. You're too much. This always happens. And then the thing about it is, like, those voices usually aren't new. They're echoes of old wounds from past rejections, because you're re-examining, especially if it's been a consistent of failed relationships, right? And the rejection whisper, as they say, the rejection whispers lies in the voice of your old wounds and past experiences that you have. And then the sad part about it is, like, social media does make it worse, because we compare, we make assumptions, and we turn someone else's silence into our own shame. You know what I'm saying? And we like if this is you, you're not alone in doing this, because a lot of people have a tendency to do this. So, and then with that, okay, like we said, people go through the 7 stages of grief when it comes to divorce, failed relationships, being rejected from a job. Like, first is denial. This can't be happening to me, of all people, me. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's like where I think the first whisper of grief that you're not enough or those whispers start coming up, where again you're doubting yourself, you're doubting your abilities, you're doubting your who you are, what you are, you're doubting your very identity. And denial, is a defense mechanism, right? And it buffers like the immediate shock of the situation, divorce, the in relationship, the failed relationship, what have you. So, and then with that, I would say, yes, put a timeline on that. Like, tell yourself, I only have so many days. If you can do that. Sometimes people can't do that for themselves. Sometimes it takes somebody else to do it for them, right? So I have like the Facebook comments coming up, and Maria says social media makes everything worse. And then it also makes things better if you are on the right pages. And that's true. And she said, like this page that educates and confronts the grief. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate you. Mwah. Love you for that. But yes, so when you, like I said, with these defense mechanisms that buffer and denial, you question your abilities, you question yourself, you question your own identity. And the timeline to put on this, okay? So I'm going to move over to a real story. My first divorce, right? And yes, y'all, I said my first divorce. I've been married twice. Okay. First divorce. I had a support person, okay, that helped me actually through my separation. Okay. So the initial separation, I had a support person. She was an older woman. And she said I called her, I'm on the phone, I'm boohooing, I'm crying. Okay. And she said to me, she said, you know what? She said, listen, she said, I'm gonna give you 3 days. That's all you get. It's 3 days. You can cry, you can scream, you can shout, get mad, throw things, do whatever you need to do to get this out your system. You only get 3. She said, today is Friday. He moved out last night. You only get the rest of Friday. You get Saturday. You get Sunday. She said, come Monday, you're going to hit the ground running. She said, because you got things to do and you got children you got to take care of. You don't have time to wallow in this. You got to get it together. I said, okay. I hung up the phone. I went through that weekend, sad, melancholy, pouting, you know what I'm saying? To just all in it, all in my feelings, you know what I'm saying? But came that Monday, I did what she told me to do. I hit the ground running, and I have not stopped running since. Okay. When I tell you I hit the ground running that day, that Monday, I had to take documents showing that my house was mine because my ex-husband had put in to cut off or have all the utilities cut off on like that Monday or Tuesday to the house. I know people. I know you would think I had mother as a child. He would have just left the house, okay, and just asked me to just switch everything over. He didn't do that. Okay. So that Monday, I'm grabbing my, deeds and stuff, looking for documents to take to the electric company. I'm looking for documents to take to the water, to the water company. I'm looking for my documents to take to them, and I'm showing them and I'm letting them know, listen, my husband left me. He already put in to have all the services cut off. I have children in the home. I need to switch these over to my name. Do not disconnect the services, please. Okay. Took care of that. Went, found a divorce attorney, took care of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I said, and once I hit the ground running, I kept moving. And Maria from Facebook, she says 3 days is a good time frame to get it out and then get back to life. It is. I think when it comes to relationships, the ending of relationships, and depending, and you talking about, I was in an 11-year marriage, 11 years. And some people be like, oh, that's a long time. Well, yeah, so marriages, that's be together, men and women, whoever, women and women, man and man, been together for 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 years before they decide to separate. However, when it comes to the ending of a relationship like that, yeah, 3 days. If you give yourself 3 days and don't wallow in it, if you have the tenacity and the resilience to give yourself three, that's all I get, because I need to get it out my system. I need to be fresh. I need to be clear.
You need to live on. Yeah, you need to live on.
I have to move on. Now, will it take time to get other things in order, if you share in a household and finances, if there's children, yeah. But other than that, Auntie Mimosa is saying if you can, do those 3 days and move on. When it comes to the ending of a relationship, when it comes to divorce, when it comes to losing a job and this rejection, you know what I'm saying? Give yourself those 3 days. Oh, my son just made it to Mississippi. Sorry, guys. You know, I got that Life 360 app on my phone, so I know where my son is at all times when he's traveling. But so let's talk about limiting despair without dismissing pain. Let's move there. So what does it mean to limit despair? Like, you're not ignoring your pain. It's about refusing to let it consume you, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between numbing, avoiding, and gently containing. And that might look like naming what you feel, okay? So, Cousin Kareem, when you went through your divorce, did you have an opportunity to name what you felt in that when you were going through it? Or were you able to, because I'm sure you were angry, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have an opportunity to name that? Did you have an opportunity to take a step back and name it? Like, I'm pissed. I'm angry. Or is that not something you thought about?
No, it was something I thought about. It was it was more so it was a final point. It got down to my sports analogies, 3 strikes and I'm done. It's like because it was a moment of how much am I gonna let myself step on? It was a point of how is this benefiting? It wasn't a point of benefiting, it was more how much am I gonna let this truly affect me and hinder me to continuously getting abused. I felt that I was getting abused because I wasn't being listened to. My needs weren't being catered to, even though I was doing. And then, of course, it was, I shouldn't say of course, but it was the moments of, oh, what are you doing for me? And I'm just like, wait, you're saying, what am I doing for you? What are you doing for me? It's like, there was no 20, 80. There was no, it was 0 and 100 as far as my consideration. And I said, well, or the thing was this, it was the D word kept being used as a leverage point to get me to conform. And I said, say it one more time. You said it twice, say it one more time. And that's going to be it. And it happened. So I was just like, boom, I'm numb. You know what I mean? I was like, boom, done. Tomorrow, I'm going to go file my paperwork. I went down there, filed my paperwork, paid $165, got the paperwork, signed it, showed it to her, boom, sign this. Oh, let me read over first. Blah, blah, blah. But then what I found out was her using it as a leverage. She never really wanted to get divorced because she lost the first set, got a new set, dropped the second set in the toilet bowl. How do you drop a whole document in the toilet bowl? You know what I'm saying? It's like
she was calling your bluff. She was
exactly
threatening and thinking that you wouldn't move on it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And that's what happened. But that happens with a lot of people is because she knew I wanted to raise my sons. She used that as leverage point. Right. And then so what I realized was in this topic for today is that if you let somebody get leverage on you, they will move you around the board like a board piece, like a game piece. And you'll be doing things outside of your ordinary, and it will mentally mess you up. It will drain you. Right. So that's the weight we carry when it comes to grief, because we don't want the grief of seeing what we saw with our parents. If you saw it, or seeing what you saw with your one of your best friend's parents when they went through divorce. All you thinking about is what you saw on TV, social media, and all of that kind of stuff. You never really went through it. But then when you take that step and say, I'm important, I'm worth something, I'm going to do this for myself, and you step into it and you're now going through it, you got to keep your mind on the fact that you're going through it. It's not the fact of, I got to get into it, I got to go through it. And then you let go of all that anxiety, animosity, and you say, you know what, I got to do it, regardless of the outcome. Like I shouldn't say I messed up. She messed it up with my 2 older sons. But I had to do it. I was going to sit there miserable. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, I'd rather have it this way than that way, because because we have learned behavior. And when we have children, people stay in relationships and don't realize, or they stay in I want to say we're addicted to the TV reality or the TV misconception of marriage. We get addicted to that. It's another form of addiction. And then we think that there's too many relationships where people say, I stay with your mother, or I stay with your dad because I didn't want to get divorced until you guys got older and you guys can understand it. And the kids now are sitting back like, so that was a lie? I got a boy, he says that. He's like, I'm never getting married. Like, when my dad just up and divorced my mom, we had all the kids had their career. And he's told us, well, he thought it was safe to divorce and now live his best life. Right. And now he's so turned off from marriage because everything he thought was learned behavior of how you be in a marriage.
So
now he's confused.
Yeah, it can be confusing because, and I think today social media does play a part, but with us, it wasn't social media because we didn't have social media growing up. We didn't have the Facebook, the TikTok, the Instagram, the fan base, the lemonades. We didn't have any social media growing up. So to hear about a divorce as a teen or a kid was like, it was unheard of. Parents did stay together until their kids went off to college, or depending on the situation, it just didn't happen. It was, it just didn't happen. We didn't hear about it too much. But I want to go back just one moment and answer the question. Tosh asked on Facebook, what's the difference between numbing, avoiding, and gently containing? So numbing, which you said you were numb, like numbing. So that's shutting down or dulling emotional pain.
Yeah.
Unconsciously. Okay. Shutting down or dulling emotional pain unconsciously. What does it look like?
Or subconsciously.
Disengaging, reverting to substance abuse, overworking, binge watching TV, or feeling emotionally flat. Okay.
Disconnect yourself emotionally.
Disengaging. That's what it looks like. The function of it, it's a protective response to being overwhelmed. But it blocks the feelings and the process entirely. So you're not able to process what you're going through. You're not able to process your feelings. You're not able to healthily process your feelings, or healthily recognize your emotions, right? And prolonged numbing can hinder healing and create more distress in the long run. So you heard me talk about compounded grief. So you can do that to yourself. Numbing, you're compounding, you're packing in, you're pushing it down, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, avoiding. Avoiding is actively turning away from thoughts, feelings, or reminders of pain. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Avoiding, actively turning away from thoughts, feelings, or reminders of pain. What does that look like? Avoiding places and people that connected you to that relationship or that job or the person. Okay. And I say relationship and the person because the relationship is as a whole, you know what I'm saying? It might be avoiding restaurants, different events and things you may have went to with that individual, right? Avoiding people. If you had friends together, you avoid those people, right? Conversations about relationships, right? um and it's distracting oneself to not feel. That's what avoiding looks like, right? The function of it, avoidance tries to protect us. It avoidance tries to protect us from discomfort,
Mm.
right? Of what we're going through, and it tends to intensify distress over time, right? The risk is it's often maintains or even worsens anxiety and can delay emotional integration. So,
What's that integration?
yes, integration, emotional integration. Mhm. All right.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to gently containing, right? So, with gently containing, that is consciously holding emotional experience within a safe limit without suppressing it. Consciously recognizing, holding emotional experience within safe limits without suppressing it. So that's being able to say, I'm angry, right? That's being able to say, okay, I'm angry. Um, I'm distressed. You know what I'm saying? I know what this is. I know what I'm feeling. I'm not going to press it down. I'm gonna handle it and deal with it as a whole and move on. What it looks like is saying, like, I can feel this. I can feel this grief. I can feel this hurt, but I won't let it drown me all at once. I'll let it come in waves. So as it comes, I'll deal with it and recognize it, right? The functionality behind it is part of emotional intelligence, right? And it's a skillful, compassionate way of allowing feelings while regulating how and when they're felt. Okay? So, a skillful, compassionate way of allowing feelings when regulating how and when they're felt. So, when you're at home, ladies or men, and you're feeling the feelings that you're feeling, angry, depressed, sad, frustrated because this relationship ended, and you're in your safe place, you can allow those feelings to come up. You can say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna let this out. I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna yell about it. I'm gonna scream about it. I'm gonna go to kickboxing, whatever. You're able to regulate those and get it out. The benefits of it is it promotes healing while maintaining stability, mental stability, right? And it's used in therapy and self compassion practices. That's what it does, right? So you have numbing, which is it feels empty and disconnected. The intention of it is to escape from the feeling. The long time effects is that it blocks healing. Avoiding is the tension, fear of triggers, right? The intention is protection from discomfort, and the long term effect is increased suffering. Okay. Then gentle containing feels like groundedness and a soft presence. The intention behind it is emotional safety and healing. And the long term effect is fostering or fosters integration and growth. So, and when we say emotional integration, I like to think, or I want to say that it's emotional intelligence. It's really intelligence behind recognizing your emotions and how to deal with them. Right?
For the most part, you gotta, intelligently work through. You gotta realize the steps that you need to get back to going back to zero.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to those levels of going through divorce, you tend to go negative,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't see yourself above that zero level, but you just keep on going down, down, down. Like the more you think about it, the more it just seems to chop the number down. The number keeps dialing backwards instead of going up towards positivity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that you have to face, something that you have to do intelligently, and make sure that you're focusing on yourself.
Right.
Because sometimes what I realize is like some people are so empathetic in a relationship that they, you probably heard this before, and I'm laughing now because I'm recalling the conversations I have people going through divorce, and they're like, "But what about if they do this?" It's just like, wait. Why are you considering them in this whole process? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's go back to the reason why we're going through this process.
Mm-hmm.
And people get empathetic, and then they start thinking about how it's going to affect them, the other person,
Mm-hmm.
versus how it's affecting them. They don't want to talk about how it's affecting them. They
Right.
ready to talk about the other person. It's like you're supposed to be cutting ties, but then you're freaking throwing the rope back on the other side to try to bring yourself back. And it's like by talking about that. And but the reason why I told you I want to talk about is because I realized this in this moment, even before the papers are drawn up or whatever, in the conversation that you have with the people, intelligently and logically, you try to talk it out. Like if, like you said earlier, you start negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just do this, then I can forego this one thing. I can forego the 9 or 25 other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a thing that your list of things that you need dwindles down to just that one thing that you're willing to sacrifice everything else
Mm-hmm.
that you want or you need in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get stuck when that one thing that is not, you ask for that one thing, and that one thing is not even observed. And then you're like, they call your bluff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do? Like I got a boy, he's been married and the arranged marriage thing so she can get her green card.
Mm-hmm.
He had one child with her. He's old, and he had another child because he was horny.
Yeah.
And he was in the mood. She happened to be in the mood that time. And he's like, I hate this chick. He literally said, I hate this chick. I hate this chick. But apparently this one moment she was looking good. Maybe she wanted some because she put that thing on him and he hit it. And he's like, well, this is my wife anyway. I don't need to protect myself. But now he's got another child. And now his whole situation, now his parents who are divorced, are still together. They're even telling him, what are you doing, son? Like, why are you staying in this loveless relationship? He's like, well, you guys never got divorced. They're like, we never got divorced because we loved each other. It wasn't toleration.
Like, well, that's a big difference. Right. That's a big difference. That's the difference, in that is that, and maybe there should have been a conversation between him and his parents about their relationships. And maybe that's something, married couples, like, there's always talks out here between married couples about how they keep their relationships together and how they maneuver and grow and allow each other to be who they are and grow into themselves and grow together. Well, maybe that's a conversation he should have had with his parents to figure it out. Did he just think what was he thinking? They just tolerated each other?
No, yeah. Well, again, learn behavior, right? So his dad grew up military special forces, and so he was never home for majority of the 20 years. You know what I mean? They get a call, they gone. But that was an agreement that they made. This understanding they came to. It was a belief that they bestowed, that they held on to. That's three different things I mentioned. Belief, you know what I mean? Agreement, you know? And it's like, but how many people hold true to agreements, beliefs, you know, and action? Because most people nowadays, when you talk to them about why somebody's unhappy in a relationship, all of those things go away. It's like something that somebody didn't observe. It's like somebody got ignored. Somebody got put to the side. And somebody, the person on the other side, is just dealing right now. They're just, this is just what it is. This is part of marriage. So, and it's like, it's gotten away from true beliefs in what marriage is. It's gotten away from, okay, we're coming together to do this. We're coming together to do that. And then it gets to a point of, I don't want to have conversations in fear of that uncomfortable feeling of despair and rejection. You now go down this point of, I'm just going to exist, and I'm not going to mention anything because I don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation. And that goes from relationships to jobs to any kind of
unhealthy. But that's unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? That's highly unhealthy to not have the conversation. Because when rejection happens, right? When rejection happens and you maneuver through the 7 stages of grief, you know, it mirrors the traditional grief, but they're deeply it's shaped different. Like there's complexities of love, identity, and emotional attachment, right? So with that, you talk about, okay, let's run through these stages. I'm gonna go through these stages quickly. 1, shock and denial, right? So this really can't be over. Like, you know, the feeling of numb, you feel disoriented, you're in disbelief, right? Refusal to accept the breakup, especially if it was suddenly or unwanted, right? You refuse a breakup. You just, in your mind or in their minds, you know, it's like, this is not over. And you get some people like that. This ain't over. You're mine. You ain't going nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Then it's the pain and guilt. How did I let this happen? Right? Emotional pain sets in, headaches, crying, rumination. Now you're thinking back constantly about different things you could have did different in the relationship. You might blame yourself. You might feel guilty over what you did or didn't do, right? Anger and bargaining, right? Now here you come. They never really loved me. Well, maybe we can fix this. And then the anger is directed a lot of times at the ex. Sometimes you are angry with yourself, or you're mad or angry at the situation, right? And because you're trying to put it all together. And then bargaining shows up. Late night text messages, right? Hoping for reconciliation, or mentally replaying the what if scenarios. Well, what if when we went on vacation, I should have wore, or I should have did this more, or I should have did that more, or what if I should have said when we had the argument, what if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Then 4, depression, reflection, and loneliness, right? So that's I feel so alone.
That turns to the late night booty calls. One more time, just like, you know what I mean?
That's
like
the late night text messages.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you get the knock on the door and you're like, who the hell knocked on my door? And you open up the door and you get this whiff of cologne or perfume and you're like, isn't that my favorite? And all of a sudden, that the what do they call those morphines or endorphins? Yeah, endorphins come on, and then you start thinking about it, and it's like, hell no. Bam,
like, no, that's not. It don't go like that, right? So, but with the, then, like I said, with depression reflection alone, that is the I feel so alone, right? And that loss becomes fully real. It becomes very real. That's when isolation shows up. That's when sadness shows up. Low energy shows up and hopelessness shows up. Okay. Now, mind you, right? You might also reflect on patterns in the relationship, your own attachment, and what went wrong. Like you're trying to figure this out, right? Okay. Then there's what's called the upward turn, right? Maybe I'm gonna start feeling okay today. So yeah, small signs of improvement, more stable emotions. You kind of happy. You start getting back to certain things, interesting hobbies, reaching out to your friends, but your pain is still there. But it feels manageable, right? It feels manageable. You almost feel like, oh, I could live again. Okay. The number 6 is the reconstruction and work through, right? That's that reflection. What did I learn from this? What can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you start to reorient toward your future and rebuilding your sense of self, the new you. Okay. And of course, this might involve therapy, setting new goals, redefining what you want in a relationship, what it's going to look like. And I think I want to say that more often than any, women do this. Okay. Women do this a lot. When we have a breakup, right? We take a step back and we start putting things in order, right? We take a step back. You know what? All right. It was a distraction. That relationship, this whole relationship was a distraction. It took me away from what I was supposed to be doing. So now I'm going to reorganize. I'm going to redo this. And you know what? When I had the last relationship, you know who, and and that breakup happened, right? I think I skipped a lot of the top part because I think I went through the first 5 before the end. And then when we got to the end, I went immediately into reconstruction and work through. I went immediately there. Okay. Because I rearranged my whole home. I rearranged my whole home. So it did not resemble very much of what it looked like when he was here. I changed my bedroom around. I mean, I cleaned my whole house from top to bottom. I changed my bedroom around. I changed my dining area around. You know what I'm saying? There was things that I did. I changed things around so it wouldn't resemble anything that looked like when he and I were together, right? Then I started writing my plans. This is what I need to do. I got to do this. I got to do this, writing my goals out, what I need to focus on to move past it, right? So, and then before I knew it, a whole year went by and I was like, oh, I'm coming up on a year that this relationship is over. It didn't even seem like a year went by. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, that work through that's a major. That's major. It'll really make you.
Yeah, women do that because men don't do that. We don't got time to do that. like interior decorating, yeah, that's not happening. The next chick is gonna do that because I don't got time to do that. Like
you don't have time to heal.
we limited on interior decorating. You know, that's the first thing. Like interior decorating is not even like a word that's in our
But it's
vocabulary.
not. It's not interior decorating. It's just shifting. It's shifting energy. It's just shifting things around.
Yeah,
But
that translates to interior decorating to me. It's like buying pillows, like like
right.
I'm not saying it freaking
Go
in
burn the
Walmart
sheets.
or whatever. Looking
Right.
at
Go burn the
pillows
sheets.
like
And then the seventh and final. I can't with you. The seventh and final step is acceptance and hope. So it's over. I'm okay. You've accepted the loss, not necessarily with joy, but with peace. And you may feel hope again in yourself and in love or in whatever lies ahead. That's that, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So, breakup grief like can feel as intense as bereavement, right? And the stages again, when it comes to breakup grief, you know, whether it's relationship, divorce, from job, you know what I'm saying? That rejection, like we said, that rejection. When it comes to that, again, the stages do not follow, the stages of grief do not follow any strict order.
nope.
No, they do not. All right. You might loop back into anger you after feeling acceptance and then revisit bargaining months later, and you know what I'm saying? Then you go back to, you may go back and forth, right? You go back and forth with that. It's no right or wrong. It's no right or wrong. None. Zero. Zero with that. None. Okay. So with that in mind, like when we go back to the difference between numbing, avoiding, and gently containing, right?
Yeah.
That's naming what you feel. That's setting a timer to let it out and then breathe. Okay. And it's saying out loud, I feel unwanted, but I am not unworthy. That's what that's saying, right? It's saying, I'm hurting and I'm allowed to be. That is what that's saying. Because sometimes people don't think they're supposed to hurt.
That's different.
Yeah. Some people don't think they're supposed to hurt in a relationship or when they become rejected. Some people, you know, it's kind of like that macho-ness. Does that make sense? That
Ego.
or ego, right? Ego. And sometimes it's false ego, because false ego can get you in a world of trouble, because when it's time, when you in that quiet space, right? Y'all know that quiet space I'm talking about. Quiet space, and those whispers start coming at you. That feeling of unworthiness, the feeling of being unloved because you were rejected, that feeling of I'm not capable, the feeling of, or the anger, you know, how did they, and not like I said, we're talking about divorce and relationships ending as well as like being rejected from a job, especially when it comes to being rejected from a job, because, or even let go from a job, because you're like, how are they going to do this to me? Like I said, how are they going to do this to me? I put in so many years at this place. I gave my all. I did my best. I went above and beyond. Or you go for an interview and next thing you know, you have a rejection letter and you go, I know I am more than qualified to do this. I know I am. And I can tell you, like, for example, with writing resumes. Okay, you always hear, write your resume, tailor it toward the job that you're applying for. Don't, you know, try not to use a blanket resume. And you send all these resumes out and then you get rejection letters in the email. Oh, we found somebody else. We found somebody else that better suited. Oh, although your experience is phenomenal. We've decided to go with somebody else. And you're reading these rejection emails and you're like, if my experience was so freaking phenomenal,
yeah, then what happened?
why you didn't call me for an interview? Okay.
Exactly.
If my experience was so phenomenal. Or, you know what I'm saying? You're like, why? Why didn't I get that phone call? You know? And especially if you know what you bring to your workplace.
Yep.
And I can tell you, I don't know how many people went this, but again, you're not alone. You're not alone because Auntie Mimosa went through this. I have been looking for another job for the past 2 years. I cannot tell you how many applications I have put out. And here comes that rejection letter. The two, and that's why I know what they say. The two that I just said, we've decided to go with someone that better fits our, what we're looking for, or we've decided to go with the internal candidate, or although your resume is so impressive, we've decided to da 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 da. Okay. Whenever I see an open an email and it says thank you for apply, I don't even read the rest. Delete. Yep. I just delete it for the simple fact that I refuse to read those words and allow those written words to play on my mind and my mental psyche because I know who I am. Now, it took me 52 going on year 53. Well, not going on year 53, completing year 53. Because you know how I do the age. You know how I do the age, Cousin Kareem. I am living year 53. Auntie Mimosa will complete year 53 on August the 16th. Some people don't get that, how I say that, or they don't understand the math because I'm like, when you're born in here, you're not born on 1. You're born on 0.
Exactly.
You live a whole year, and then you complete that year in the celebration of your birthday the next day. The very next day, you start living that next year. Okay. So on the date that you were born, that you came into, you completed that year. So of course, big Leo energy, right? On 8/16, Auntie Mimosa will have completed year 53. Okay. Now, with that being said, it took me that long to understand and get to the point where I know what I bring to a table when I put out my resume and when those rejection emails come in, I know what to do with that. The thank you for, delete, because I absolutely refuse to beat myself up. I refuse to feel guilty. I refuse to try and bargain with what I should have put on the resume, what I shouldn't have put on the resume. I refuse. I refuse to do that because I celebrate my accomplishments. I know what I have done. And you've been here in my place. I have a wall of accomplishments.
Yeah.
I have a wall full of my accomplishments that I look at. My bachelor's degree, my master's degree, my speaking, the flyers from all of my speaking engagements. I have awards that I've received from previous employers on my wall. You know what I'm saying? I know who I am. Yeah. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. And the only thing I say is this. Once you know who you are, what you are capable of, what you're worth, what you bring to the table, then you know when you go into employment, you know what you're going to bring, and you know they have the best. Hands down. Hands down. You know what it is. You know what it is. So when it comes to grief and rejection, from employers, when it comes from grief and injection of applying for jobs, when it comes to grief and rejection in relationships, ending relationships, when it comes to grief and rejection, one, give yourself a time limit. 3 days to grieve, 3 days to get it out of your system. 3. Some people, I can't do that. That's fine.
Yes, depends on how much self-confidence they got. I think a lot of times those these breakups, they build self-confidence in some people. Some people are like, all right, enough's enough. I know who I am now. You know what I mean? Especially if it's a bad breakup, job, relationship. Because that's when you get to that point of like, wait a minute, hold up. I've been thinking about this situation wrong this whole time.
Right.
And then you almost like you gotta get knocked down. How that song? You gotta get knocked down to get up.
Exactly.
Right,
you gotta get knocked down to get back up.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
It is. And that's in the crazy, I'm gonna say the the one thing about that, right? Yes, you have to get knocked down to get back up. I understand that ending a relationship is heartbreaking. Rejection is heartbreaking. It is. Okay? It is. However, at the same time, right? At the same time, again, knowing your worth, knowing what it is that who you are, right? Knowing who you are helps you maneuver and get through it, right? Now, some people don't have it. Some people do not have it. And I feel sympathy for them as well as empathy for them, because I myself was not at this point where when I had a breakup, I could say, meh, and move on, right? I wasn't always at this point where I could say, read the email, the rejection letter, and be like, something else next, it's something better coming. It's something better coming. I was not always at that place. So with that being said, that confidence building, you have to have it. However you need to get it. Auntie Mimosa cannot tell you that. She cannot tell you how to build your confidence. She cannot tell you how to go about I can't do that. You have to figure that out. You have to figure out how to build your own confidence. And
gotta stop being a victim. That's being a victim. That's the first part. You gotta say, so I'm not a victim.
You're not a victim.
I'm not the one that got broke up with. They're the one that, I broke up with them. That's the first way. Because if not, then you're not gonna get no place. Because there's a saying that you should say, right? Captain Saver, and then
Captain Save a hoe?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if we could say that, so
Captain Save a hoe. On both sides, male and female.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Save a hoe.
And that's the problem. When you accept the title of being a victim, and that's all you're gonna be is a victim. Right. Sometimes you gotta turn into that what are those spiders called?
Which one?
The ones that kill their mates.
Black widow?
Black widows. You gotta turn into one of those. Like, I'm just gonna get mine and just do whatever it's gonna do, because I'm tired of all of this nonsense. And the whole game swaps once you're on the other side.
It does. But
anyway, go back to your finish. Finish your set.
Right. But here's the thing, though. In a relationship, when you're in a relationship and when you go work for an employer, right? The key is you have to be your own self. You have to know at any given time there's going to be an end. Whether it is a breakup, when I'm talking about relationships, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a loss of life, there's going to be an ending, right? So with that in mind, how you maneuver, and with employment, how you maneuver, there's going to be an ending. Either you're going to leave, or they're going to term, right? So you know there's an ending coming, whether you retire, there's an ending coming. But with that ending, you have to know and believe that in that relationship, because when you are employed, that is a relationship. When you're in that, the things that you're doing is not for the other person, the employer. It's not for them. You don't live your life for them. You live your life for you. You live your life for you. You add to a person's happiness. You add to the employer in completing the job duties, job tasks, whatever it is that needs to be done to make the employer, that business, run like a well-oiled machine. But at the end of the day, you're doing what you're doing for you, right?
That's it.
And not because when you start doing everything that you do in that relationship, personal relationship, work relationship, business relationship, when you start doing, because everything that you're doing is for that person or that other entity or that business, you lose yourself.
Yep.
And that breakup, that termination, that rejection is a whole lot more difficult to get through. I can tell you that.
One person is working and the other person is not. You don't see the efforts put in by the other side. Yeah, that's the worst kind, because now you're looking at like, I got abused, and these people, this person, then they getting away with like stealing, murder. It's just like, nah. It's a whole different aspect.
It is.
Been that too many times with business relationships where one person's doing one and the other person's doing nothing. You're like, how? And then when you break it up, they're looking at you like, why? I don't understand. It's just like, let me explain it to you.
Okay. You ain't doing nothing.
3 instances. Just three. Right. My max number is 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
When it gets to, 3 and 5. When you add that 7, that's where stuff starts bad, because 357 is not a good thing for most people, especially when you see it coming towards them. So I just leave it at 3 and 5. Don't let me get to the 7. Don't let me get to the 7. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You want to go there?
They don't want it. They don't want it. You don't want it.
No. And it's just, but that's real talk. It's like, there's too many times that people, you enter into an agreement, and then you forgot. I don't know if people forget, whether it's a job or a relationship, business, you forget the agreement. Like, we enter a specific reason. If we, and you know what it is? I think that, especially like in employment, employers try to just get as much out of it people as they can. They know that the people get frustrated in that position, so they're just like biding their time, and they know. The thing that pisses me off is when people talk about, and I'm like,
you're breaking up. You're right.
You starting? Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah. So
I hate to hear from people like that say, I put my 2-week notice. I'm like, why? I'm like, you know, that last person that got fired, did they get a 2-week notice? Like, in majority of these states, you don't gotta put in a 2-week notice.
It's a courtesy.
Yeah, I believe people
courtesy.
Yeah, I like leave them so they realize my potential when it's left. When it's like, me? You gonna let me go? No, I'm letting you go. I'm trying to fill my position in these next 2 weeks. You gotta go through the interview process, the vetting process, all of that. Yeah, you're gonna be stuck for 2 weeks now. How does that feel? Yeah.
Goodness.
Bye.
Well, any final thoughts before we close, Cousin Kareem?
No, I
There's
just
going to
think
be a part two. There's going to be a part two to this because we definitely did not touch on some other aspects to rejection, grief and rejection. So we're definitely going to come back to, limiting despair without dismissing pain. That's going to be in part two. Redeeming or not redeeming, redefining rejection. We're going to visit that in part two. Listener reflections. We're going to see, we can get some stories for some people that were listening to this today. If not, we'll just, reflect on our own. But any closing thoughts, Cousin Kareem? Next Sunday, part two. Next Sunday, part two.
Yeah, that's next Sunday. Next Sunday, we get into it.
Okay.
Treat yourself good. That's it. That's my closing thought. Treat yourself good.
Okay.
Good.
The double. That's what the quadruple. D in the middle. So
yeah, exactly.
So before we close, I want to leave you all with a simple affirmation, and that is, I am worthy, even when I am not chosen. I can feel pain without becoming pain. My grief has room to breathe, and so do I. I'll say that one more time. I am worthy, even when I am not chosen. I can feel pain without becoming pain. My grief has room to breathe, and so do I. Okay. And with that, I want to say thank you for being here, for holding space. And in this podcast today, thank you for holding space and being here and taking us all in. With that being said, and thank you, TikTok folks. I know I haven't, y'all, some people been in and out. Thank you to Brown Eyes. Thank you to Jazzy for holding me down, coming in, holding me down last minute. I know I didn't put it in the room. Sorry, guys, was running behind, but life is life in us. But here we go. Thank you for joining us today on this journey through grief, healing, and remembrance. Grief is something we simply do not just get over or get under or get through. It's something we learn to carry. It's something that shapes us and something that teaches us about love and resilience. As you move through your own process, remember to be patient with yourself. And that's whether with grief from a loss or grief from rejection. There's no timeline. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. Honor your feelings, embrace the memories, and allow yourself space to heal in your own time. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to reach out, share your story with us or experiences, and let us know how grief has shaped your journey. And if you know someone who might need this conversation, please share this episode with them. You can reach us on Instagram, IG at Queen of Life Empowerment or SBSH Grief Podcast. On Facebook at Sometimes We Boujee, Sometimes We Hood. We up to 80 followers. Hey, come on, y'all. 20 more on Facebook so we can get to 100 followers and I can actually broadcast Facebook Live from Sometimes We Boujee, Sometimes We Hood. And on TikTok at Sometimes We Boujee and Hood. All right. You can also email us, and it's very long. It's the name of the podcast. Sometimes We're Boujee, Sometimes We Hood at gmail.com. Until next time, be kind to yourself, hold space for your emotions, and remember, you are never alone in this journey. Okay? You are never alone in this journey. So take gentle care of yourself. You are carrying the most beautiful love there is. You don't have to walk this road alone or in silence. Your love and your light still matters. And with that, Have a great night.
Enjoy.
It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance.